warm release of water, like just a tiny bit. And I was like, oh, Jay, I think my waters are going. And he's like, oh, what should we do? And they just Hollywood style, like flooded.
Wow. You got the exact birth that you wanted, your dream birth.
Adjusting. Hello. Oh, you're here, darling. Oh, you worked so hard for that. Come on. Oh, we did it. We did it. It's a boy. I said you were a boy. I knew you were a boy. Oh, good boys.
We have a special guest on our channel today. Hi everyone, and welcome to Legacy Birth. Now, this mom had an unassisted birth, and we got to join in on that moment as we watched here online. We got to watch the video. We got to see the amazing surprise gender reveal. We got to see her gracefully bring her newborn to her arms, all on her own. Now we're going to get to know the story behind her unassisted birth, her choices, and why she decided to have an unassisted birth. Here on Legacy Birth, we share educational birth videos to empower women, and our goal is to get to 21,000 subscribers in 2021. So if you're new to this channel, click that red juicy button down below. Down below, it says subscribe. It says subscribe. Let's welcome our special guest. Her name is Trudy.
Hello.
We did it.
Did it! Finally!
Yay! So let's get into your cervical checks, because you obviously didn't have any. Like, did you know you were in early phase? Did you know you were in active phase? And what were some signs or indications that you used to know if you were ready to push or anything like that?
So with my first birth, I was 40 weeks and 2 days, and it was 4:45 in the morning. And I was in bed, and I felt like a warm release of water, like just a tiny bit. And I was like, oh, Jay, I think my waters are going. And he's like, oh, what should we do? And I was like, I'm going to tidy the house. So I tidied the house. This was 45. And then in that time, like, water was kind of trickling a little bit, but nothing else, no sensations. So I was just like, yeah, I'll get everything ready. You know, might not be today. I was happy for waters to be open for a while. I knew that was normal. And then he was like, I'm not going to go into work today, just in case. He's self-employed, so it was fine. And then 11 a.m. I was sat on the birth ball, just watching a film, and they just Hollywood style, like flooded.
Wow.
The whole thing. And I was not expecting that at all. I was thinking, oh, they'll just trickle and ease out, but it was just. And I was big, so there was a lot of water in there. and so shortly after that, my mucus plug came out, and contractions started up within 30 minutes. So it was like they were slow and steady, and they just kept to a really good pattern. So this was sort of like 11 a.m., like I said, and they just kind of like, my new phone had just arrived actually that morning, my new iPhone. And so I thought, I know, I'll set it all up and like change everything over, and that'll keep me busy. And before I even got halfway through, I just could not concentrate at all. My mind was just totally somewhere else. I couldn't think. And so I was like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, be upstairs on my own, and just see if I can get things moving a bit more.
Before we get started, get your unmedicated birth plan so you can start planning your natural birth exactly the way you want it. You can get it on our website at valaboo.com. The links are always in the description, and use the code QUEEN for 15% off your first purchase.
And so I left my husband downstairs and was in the bathroom upstairs, and I was just pacing, walking round and round. And then every time a contraction came, I'd get down on all fours and then just sort of like try and breathe and move and see what felt good, and then keep moving. I couldn't be still. I was like, I want this baby to move down. I want to keep upright, gravity, all of that. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of like sit on the toilet for a little bit and pee. And things were just like moving really, really well. And it just felt like such a good flow. It was just perfect. And then my husband came up after a few hours. It was probably about 4 p.m. at this time. And he was like, "You're getting a bit loud. And they seem quite close together. Shall I call Sue?" And I hadn't even thought at that point to call Sue. And then so I was like, "Do you think?" And then I kind of like did a timer on my phone, and they were a minute long every 3 minutes. So I was like, "Oh yeah, like this is active. Like, yeah, ring Sue." So we called Sue. So Sue came about 5 p.m. and she saw me and she was like, "I think we need to get the pool filled up." Wow. And she'd kind of like taken her time because it was first baby. She was thinking this is going to go on and on and on and on. But I really, really feel that like being on my own, being upright, keeping moving, I really feel like that helped massively to just sort of work baby down and keep things moving so well. So then we filled up the pool. I got into the pool about 5 p.m. and just kind of like lay over the side. I remember my doula was like, "Do you want to use the space?" And I went to move back. I was like, "Oh God, no, like no. And I just stayed in a position, just kind of like resting on the pool like that. Stayed there for 3 hours until he was born, basically. So I could feel him go into the birth canal. And I can't remember what I said to Sue. I think I said like, "Something's changing." And she asked me some questions like, "Does it feel like it's in your bum?" Or whatever she said. I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "I think you're going to go into transition now, and then your body will push." And I just kind of like was like, "Oh right, cool." And then I was so relaxed, and I just kind of like fell asleep for a little bit, like on the side of the pool. And my transition was like, I didn't even notice it. It was just kind of like I woke up and then my body was just bearing down, and all my sounds changed, and then it was more of a moo, and then my body was just pushing, and that was that. So there was no kind of thought process behind any of it. It just did its thing, and I just tried to not hold back, but like get out the way, bring myself out of the way, hold myself back to just let my body just do what it needed to do. And then it was about 30 minutes later that he was born. So I felt him enter the birth canal, and I was like, heads coming, oh, heads out. There was no crowding. It was like, he was just out.
Wow.
And so then my husband was behind me and I was on all fours. So he jumped in the pool ready to catch because I just wasn't in a position to grab him. And then the next contraction, his body was out. And Phoenix's birth, the second, it was different, like the build up. So I really wanted to kind of like wipe the slate clean in my mind and prepare for a new experience, because Fox's was so perfect and just worked so well. I was kind of like, I need to be prepared for things to be different. Like maybe my waters won't go first. Maybe this will happen, or this, or this could go on for 2 days. This could go on for 2 hours. And that was really difficult to kind of get my first birth out of my mind in comparison. And so Phoenix's birth started with sensation. So it didn't start with waters or mucus plug.
Okay.
I was putting my son down for a nap, and I was kind of like, I've been getting Braxton Hicks for a long time, and I was kind of like, oh, this feels a little bit different. It feels a bit more. And I wasn't timing anything, but I was just kind of noticing, oh, they're getting more regular and getting more close together. And my husband had gone out for the morning to an appointment, and he came back. And I was like, I think we're going to have a baby today. This was like midday. I was like, I feel like the Braxton Hicks aren't Braxton Hicks anymore. I think they're contractions. But I'm fine. I was like, I'll carry on with the day. So I was with my son and I was tidying up and things. And then it kind of got to a point after about 2 hours where I'd have to stop and sort of like go as one came. But I still had that first birth in my mind. I was like, oh, the waters haven't gone. Like, maybe this isn't actually it. And then after a couple of hours of sort of like stopping and breathing through, I was like, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to be in the bedroom, close the blinds, and do what I did last time. So I was just completely on my own again for the majority of the labour, walking around the bedroom, on the bed for all fours when a contraction came. And they were getting noticeably more powerful, like each one, it seemed. And I was thinking, oh, this seems to be going like really smoothly, but my waters haven't gone. And is it just, does it feel like it's more than it is because my waters haven't gone? So I had all those questions in my mind. And so it was about 6 p.m, I think, when I was like really vocal then, and I was like having a bit of a hard time trying to find what I wanted to do, like position wise. And I was just talking to baby all the time, like, yeah, come on baby. And then my husband came up and I was like, right, ring my auntie, she only lives 10 minutes away, to come and get my son. And ring Sue, I'll text Sue. So I text Sue. And I was like, I've just timed the contractions, they're a minute long, 3 minutes apart. I think you should maybe think about coming now. So she's like, I'm on my way now. So, because she knew like the first I hadn't hung around. So I was on the bedroom floor, and I was having a much harder time with the contractions than the first time around, because they were just so much more intense. It was just happening so much faster. And I've never in any of my births said I can't do this, or I want drugs, or pain relief has never even crossed my mind in my birth. It's kind of, I've always tried to reframe it as an intensity rather than a pain. And I've always felt very strongly like this is me doing this. Like, it can't be bigger than me because it is me. But I was kind of like, oh, like this is really getting somewhere now. And it was just so much faster. And I remember my first being more like relaxing, kind of like, oh yeah. This was just like
boom,
10 times more. Yeah, this was like steam train. And so again, Sue came, and Jay had been saying like, should we fill up the pool? I was like, no, like let's just give it a bit longer. Sue came, she sat in the corner of the room away from me, and she was like, get that pool. And so it was like time again. So Jay went to fill the pool, and I remember I sat in the room, and she just said to me, I think we need to discuss that you might not make it to the pool. Where do you want to birth? And I was like, right here is fine with me. So I was on my bedroom floor, I put a puppy pad down. Oh, and just before she arrived, that's when my mucus plug came out. So just before she arrived, I just saw it come out in pieces basically on the puppy pad. So I went to the toilet, and then it all came out, and I was like, oh yeah, definitely it's going to be a baby. As if like all the contractions didn't solidify in my mind. And so then she was like, the pool's ready. Are you ready to go downstairs? I was like, yes, get me downstairs, because I remembered the relief I felt after in the first birth. And so I got in the pool, and as soon as I sunk in, my waters released, and I was like, oh, like it felt so good to just get that out. And then as soon as my waters released, that was it. Like, there was no barrier left at all, and he was just coming. And so I was only in the pool for 20 minutes before he was out. And so that there was kind of a little break after I got in the pool, and nothing really happened for a little bit. And then the contraction started again, and it was just, again, 10 times more powerful than it had been. Now my waters had gone. And I felt, as he entered the birth canal, it was like one contraction that went on and pushed him the entire way down, and he was crowning, and I was just holding on for dear life, like as this was happening, just like, oh my goodness. And then he was crowning, and then my first son never crowned. He was just like bloop, like head came out. Whereas he was crowning for a little while, and then the head was out, and the head was out for 10 minutes before he was born. This time, so for the entire birth video, his head's out the whole time for like the whole thing. And so they're like, fanning around, and I'm like got this head hanging out. But that was another fear of mine, was a shoulder dystocia. And the first time in my first pregnancy, when I was attending all the appointments, they were telling me that my fundal height was too big. I needed growth scans, which I refused. I was absolutely not entertaining that idea whatsoever. I was like, however big this baby is, I will birth it. Like, I've got no qualms about birthing a big baby. And so refused the growth scans. It was just an ongoing issue, which is why I chose a wild pregnancy the second time. It just, they would not let up. And they were like, you need to transfer to the birth centre. Don't think you should be having a home birth, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, okay, that's your opinion, but I'm still having a home birth. And I was just so firm with that. I was just like, I'm not willing to have this conversation anymore. I stopped letting them measure my fundal height. So from 31 weeks, I think I was like 3 centimetres ahead consistently. And they were really drilling it into me about shoulder dystocia. And my first son, Fox, so one of the last appointments that I went to, I was about 38 weeks, and the midwife palpated me. And she was like, this is a really big baby. She was like, this baby's going to be like 10 pounds. He was £7.12, and he slipped out like a fish. He literally just was like, no issue whatsoever. So that's what spurred me the second time round to just be like, I'm not interested in anyone else's opinion, because even when they've got an opinion, I don't listen to it, because if it contradicts how I feel inside, then yeah, it's just not going to happen. So the second time round, his head came out, and I just knew his body was not going to come out the next time, because I could feel him turning. So my body stopped bearing down, and I was having contractions, but it was just pressure, and it was just turning him. And it was so amazing. Like, that really, really solidified how incredible our bodies are if we just leave it alone. Because if I'd have been in a hospital, it would have been episiotomy, push, get the baby out now, he needs to be born. Emergency. I would have been sliced, I would have had the baby pulled from me, vacuum hands, however, forceps. And there was just absolutely no need whatsoever. And I knew that with every fibre of my being. There was no fear in me at all in that moment. I could feel him moving, I could feel his legs kicking, I knew he was fine. And so he was turning. And then, like I said, 10 minutes, and then he came out, his shoulders released, and he only came out halfway, like to his belly button. So he came out halfway, and I was kind of like, oh, it's halfway. And then he just slipped out, and that was that. And then if you look back on the video, he didn't cry for 90 seconds after he was born. But again, I could feel him moving, and I could see his little mouth moving, and I just knew he was adjusting. And so all the fears about baby not crying or whatever just didn't enter my head at that point either. Even when it was, taking longer than a midwife would ever have allowed. He would have done, suctioned and all of that stuff. And again, totally unnecessary. I didn't even need to suction anything from him with my mouth. He was just, I could see and I could feel in my body that he was just adjusting himself, and he was just needed some time.
You gave him a very gentle transition. So sometimes when you give them such a gentle transition and they're still getting oxygen from the placenta, their urgency to cry isn't as, opposed to coming out and somebody cutting the umbilical cord right away.
Yeah. Leave it alone. Your body does what it needs to do. It's so intelligent.
The more and more that I listen to you, I'm like, wow, you are so on point with so many different things. You are so headstrong, and it really, really paid off, because had you have not been, it would have been a completely different birth, like you said. And then I loved, even in your birth, how like everyone else was going on your timing. Like, you were so patient before you found out the gender. You're just like,
Everyone says that. So many people were like, how did you wait that long? But I knew it was a boy the second I saw him, because he looked identical to Fox. They looked absolutely identical. If I'd have had them both side to side, I would not have been able to tell which one was which when they were first born. So I think as soon as I saw him, I just was like, that has got to be a boy. But yeah, I kind of felt that before. So with Fox, I found out his gender, found out his sex, and I regretted it after I did it. I was like, oh, why did I do that? I should have waited. And then the second time, there was nothing in me that wanted to find out at all. I was so excited and surprised. And I had no feelings either way. I thought Fox was a girl, so that was wrong. And I just didn't have any feelings either way until I had a really vivid dream of birthing a boy about 2 weeks before I had him. And it was one of those dreams where when you wake up, you're kind of looking for a split second where your baby boy is. Wow. And that kind of made me feel like, oh, I'm missing a baby boy. So yeah, I felt like he was maybe going to be a boy at the end, and then as soon as I saw him, I was like, he's got to be. But yeah.
So you saw him and you were like, yeah, you already kind of knew that he was a boy, but everybody was like, okay, are we gonna check? Like, oh yeah, you want to check? I kind of knew. I mean, it looks just like Fox.
Yeah. But I'd said before the birth, so we meet up with Sue like a few times throughout the pregnancy, and on the last one, Sue had said, you know, this is your chance now to give us all of your ground rules, everything you want. And one of them was, nobody asked me what the sex was. I want to do it in my own time. I want to sort of just have time where it's just the baby. Like, we don't know who it is. It's just the baby. And I got that. So I was really chuffed that I got that time.
So a lot of the things in your birth are not really spontaneous. It's almost like you did a lot of the groundwork to make sure it flowed in the way that you wanted it to manifest. And like, even when you were saying, when you were going through your contractions and your earlier contractions, you were like on your own for most of it and doing all that work, but you were also keeping your husband calm so that he wasn't getting too frantic. You're like, oh, no, it's fine. Just, I'm going to clean the house. And that allowed you to probably dilate even faster because there wasn't that much pressure.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Being on my own in birth is definitely for me. Like, I'm not shy in front of my husband at all, but in birth, even when he's just sort of like on the peripheral watching me in the early stages of labour, I can feel myself like just sort of like change. I change my position, I change what I'm doing, I kind of lower my voice. Whereas when there's no one around me, it's just completely unadulterated. It just comes out how it is. I've got nothing to hide, nothing to sort of downplay. So yeah, that's absolutely a key, I think, to why they both went so well.
Your birth is like a voice that is speaking to women. And when they watch it, they find themselves through the video. And you make it seem so easy, but behind it all, you did a lot of the groundwork. You educated yourself through a lot of things. You were not going into it uneducated. You weren't just like, oh, I'm just going to have a baby and hope everything's going to go well. No, You knew what you were doing, and you planned and you prepared and you executed. You manifested it. It just goes to show that even though if you were to go in another route, the hospital route or even a birth center route, your entire birth would have been different. But because you trusted yourself, you trusted your nature, and you let your body guide you, you got the exact birth that you wanted, your dream birth.
I think that sounds pretty good. Yeah. I'm happy with that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the birth preparation is just, you can't miss that step and expect to have an epic experience, because that is the work. That is absolutely the work. And yeah, I spent my entire pregnancy listening to podcasts, reading birth books, watching videos. I just devoured anything that I could. Women who've done what I wanted to do were just my absolute inspiration. And I'm so grateful that people are out there putting this content out there, like you. I just couldn't not share the video, because it was other videos of other women doing it that really sort of, gave me the confidence to think, yes, yeah, I totally can. I think I can. Now I know I can. And story is medicine. And yeah, it's so powerful when we share these things and give hope to other women that they can experience the same things, because it's within us all. And didn't have these experiences because I got lucky. I had them because I worked flipping hard to get them.
Yes.
And I really had to get my mindset in the right place, and it paid off 100%.
Tell them a little bit more about yourself and your family.
I live in England, in the UK, so sort of near the Peak District. Lived here forever. So I have a husband, Jay. He's a tattoo artist, and we have 2 boys now. So my son Fox is 3 almost in a couple of days, and Phoenix, whose birth video is on YouTube, is 5 months on Friday. And I'm a full-time mum now, but before kiddies, I worked in schools and I was a private nanny, so always been around little ones.
Nice. So what was your first child's birth like?
So he was a free birth too. So a free birth.
Oh, wow.
Babies with the same people. So who you see on the video, which is Jay, and our husband, our doula, Sue.
Mm-hmm.
So she was there present for my first birth as well. Yes, so very similar. Born in the same room, same house. Very, very similar.
So what's unassisted birth like in England? Is it normal? Is it rare?
I know a couple of people who've done it, but other than that, not many. If you're kind of like in the right circles, you might know a couple, but in general, no, pretty unheard of. So the first time I told family and friends was after I'd free birth, so I didn't tell them what we were planning. Most people had never heard of it. So home birth is, again, not really that popular in general. I think it's something like 2% of babies born at home in England. Mm-hmm. So the first time I was kind of in the system for prenatal care, and the second time wasn't. So they were different pregnancy experiences.
So you didn't do any prenatals. You just did your own prenatal work, basically.
Yeah, second time around.
Awesome. That's so interesting. So what made you, because making those decisions is a really bold decision, right? Mm-hmm. And you said that you didn't let anyone know at the beginning because you kind of have that feeling that people are just going to reject or say negative things. So you kept that moment sacred to yourself. Mm-hmm. But did you get the decision from seeing someone else do it? Like, what was the reason why you chose to have an unassisted birth?
So first time around, always been super interested in birth, and I always said I'd have a home birth, and I don't know where that came from. Since I was tiny, I was always like, my babies will be born at home. Nobody in my family had home birthed, and shortly before I fell pregnant with Fox, I came across a random Instagram story, and it was a lady on Instagram called Very Lacey. And she did a post about her recent birth with her first child, also called Fox, weirdly. And it was her podcast with Emily on Free Birth Society. Mm-hmm. And I remember in the post, it just sort of said, it was just her and her husband. And my first thought was kind of like, sounds a little bit too much for me, but I was interested. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I'd listened to the podcast, I was just floored. I was like, oh my goodness, this is what I want. Like, I just knew immediately, as soon as I knew the concept of free birth, I was like, that is it. Unassisted birth, that's what I want. It was just an immediate connection to it. And it was like, that's what I had in my head. I just didn't know how to name it. And once I had a name for it, that was the path straight away. So my husband was just brilliant. He was just like, whatever you want, like, it's your birth, you do you, basically. So I didn't have any pushback from him. And we decided not to tell any family, any friends about it. So I think a couple of friends did know, because they kind of, I'd said something like about home birth, like, maybe not have midwives there, or whatever, like that. Maybe they won't call. So everyone knew we were having a home birth, but no one knew free birth. And it was just because I didn't want anyone else's negativity in my space at all. I was not interested in anybody else's opinion on how I was going to birth. I was only interested in what felt good to me. So it worked really well, because with home birth, everyone was kind of like, well, maybe not for your first baby, but people pretty accepting, and no one really had anything negative to say. But I knew if I was to mention no midwives, everyone would be like, "Oh, you will die. Everyone will die." And I just didn't feel that way at all. I just really felt like that was the safest option for me. I knew that I'd feel most comfortable in my own space. I knew that I didn't want anyone telling me what to do. I knew that I could do it, basically. And I didn't really have any doubt about that. I really just felt like me being with the people who I felt safe with, which was Jay and then Ardula when we met her. I just felt like that was my team, and that's all I needed. And I didn't need anything that a midwife would do, like vaginal checks. I didn't want that. I didn't want monitoring. So it seemed pointless having someone there when I didn't want anything that you could provide.
Yes. I love that you just said that right there. That is so powerful, because you just said that there was no point in having someone there if you didn't want anything that they could provide. Mm-hmm. That is super, super deep. I love that. I love that a lot. And it's so, so true. And it's sad that people think of the fact that not having a midwife is like, oh my gosh, you're going to die. Like, it's not going to be a good thing. But if you watch a birth with a midwife present, the mother's doing most of the work regardless. So why that doula? Was there anything specific about her that you gravitated towards?
So I was really thinking that I would not find someone to support me, doula wise. I really felt like I was going to have a hard time. And I was okay with that. And I thought, well, I'll look. And if nobody fits the bill, then I'd rather not have anyone. I was totally willing for it to just be me and my husband. He really felt like he wanted someone there, a friend or whatever. I think he was worried that he'd ruin things for me. I think he was worried that, like, he'd panic about something, because he's never seen birth before. Like, he's never been exposed to it. I've never seen a birth before. And he was like, I'd rather have someone there, like even a friend, not necessarily a midwife or anything like that. He's like, I just want someone, but if you don't want that, then that's fine. So I had a look online, and there was a lady, Sue. She was the first person I found, and she lived like 45 minutes away, and she did pregnancy yoga classes, and she did cycle awareness classes, and she's got a little hut in her back garden where she has like women, and it's called Heart Space, and she just is so wise. She's just like such a motherly figure, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want anyone my age. I wanted someone like an elder. And I basically just wanted someone there to be my support and just tell me, this is okay, you're doing this, if I asked. And I didn't want anyone, like, yeah, you can do this, woo, woo, like, not so much like that. Just sit in the corner and just like, you're fine. If I had any wobbles. And so she came over, and I met her, and at the end she stayed for about 2 hours, and we chatted, and she was just like, I would be so excited to support you. So I told her straight away, like, this is going to be a free birth. She was like, I literally spend 9 months trying to convince women that they are all that they need, and you already know. She was like, perfect. And so she's just so supportive and so up for it. And just, she said, like, a lot of the births that she's attended before, the midwives just don't like her there. They get in the way. They take over. She's kind of pushed to the sidelines. So I think she was excited to be there, just her, and me be there, just me. And as soon as I met her, she's just very quiet, very calm. And I just loved her straight away. I was like, yes, you're going to be at my birth. And she was like, do you want to like leave it for a little bit and kind of get to know some other people? I was like, no, there's no one else. Like, I knew straight away, and she was perfect, absolutely perfect. She did pretty much nothing, which is kind of what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Every single thing that she was saying was just like an affirmation.
Yeah, she was brilliant. And the same with the first. Obviously, you wouldn't have invited her back to the second if there was anything. But I couldn't say anything that she did wrong at all. She was just, she just held the space. She just trusted me completely. And with my first birth, I remember all she really did was, I had my husband like rubbing my back for counter pressure every single contraction, and if he'd go to the toilet, she'd take over, and that was it. That was the only time she touched me. She just said the same kind of thing she did the second time around, and I just think, to have that is so rare. Like, it's so difficult to find someone who is willing to just sit back and watch and just be glad to be there. It just felt like it was a really nice little trio. Like, we had a really good little thing going on. It was brilliant.
It looked a lot like a trio, especially the way that you guys were situated, because it was her, then it was you, and then it was your husband. So slight slanted triangle.
Yeah.
It was so nice. So would you say that your birth was your dream birth?
Absolutely. Yeah, both. So we tried to record my first birth as well. We had like a video camera set up on a tripod, but the battery died just before I gave birth, so we didn't catch the first one. So I was really happy to catch it the second time. But yeah, both complete dreams. And I think it's actually bizarre how close they are to what I envisioned my birth to be. I worked so hard on manifestation and so hard on just having a birth in my mind and not letting it falter. It was just, it felt like I'd already had it by the time I was approaching my birth time. It felt like it had already been done. And it was like to a T, exact both times. And the second time was quicker. And that's what I wanted. I felt like, I want the same birth, just a little bit shorter. And it was like, yeah, they were identical.
Manifestation for birth is a real thing. Like, you can manifest your birth.
Yeah,
and it seems like you were not fearful of birth at all. So that's just because some moms, they have like this fear that they kind of have to jump over. Did you have any fears in the beginning? And how did you jump over those fears?
I think you're always going to have things come up. And I think what I tried to separate was, am I scared or is something worrying me because it's an intuitive thing? Am I tuning into something that's a bit iffy, or that, it's coming from inside? Or is it a fear that's coming from the outside? Is it something that's being projected onto me, like cords around the neck?
Yeah.
Am I scared about that because people have told me to be scared of that? Or is that something inside? And everything felt like it was just fears from the outside. So in general, I would say I just did not doubt that I could do it whatsoever. I knew I could birth my babies at home, 100%. But things came up, like my main fear, and it had always creep in sort of towards the end, was, what if the baby doesn't breathe?
Yeah.
And so then if that sort of came up, and I'd kind of get a little bit of a knot in my stomach or something when I thought about it. So then I'd just journal, write down what the fear was, write down an imaginary scenario and what I'd do. And just by writing it just relieved everything. And I'd work through it that way. And I think things come up because you have to work through them. I don't think you can escape that. But I think they're all lessons, and I've learned massive lessons from the things I worked through in my pregnancy. And I think if you don't work through them in your pregnancy, they will show up in your birth. So I think that's where the work is, in the pregnancy, in the preparation, in the mindset. And I think your mindset is such a powerful tool. And I think while we can't control our birth, we can massively influence it with our mindset and our preparation. Absolutely.
I think a lot of moms probably do have that fear of, like, what if the baby doesn't start breathing? If you focus more on educating yourself on, okay, what do I do in case of this scenario? Then it actually eliminates the fear, because it's like, okay, well, if that happens, I'll just do this, or I'll just do that, or I'll just do this, right? Where can everyone find you?
So I'm on Instagram at trudywilbraham, and yeah, that's where I am.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trudy, for being on today. And we'll definitely stay connected.
100%. Thank you.
100%. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview with Trudy and learned a lot from it as well. I hope that there is someone watching who definitely needed this video. On Legacy Birth, we share educational birth videos to empower women, and our goal is to get to 21,000 subscribers in 2021. So if you're new to this channel, click that red juicy button down below. Down below, it says subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.